Everybody. Thank you so much once again for joining us for this very special screening of Wicked. How do you all find it the second, third, fourth time around? I am so thrilled to be joined on stage now by the BAFTA and Oscar nominated Ariana Grande! Hi, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on such a special day for you as well.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Hello.
Congratulations. How was it today receiving the news that you were Oscar nominated?
Thank you so much. I don't know. I mean, I'm so overwhelmed. It has been the most out-of-body day. I've been sobbing the entire day. Forgive me. I'm literally a little dizzy. I've been crying the entire day. It's been so emotional, and I'm just kind of trying to be present and grateful, and it's so surreal. You can't prepare yourself for it.
Of course not.
Fuck, I'm so sorry. I just got here. I'm so sorry. No. We literally just started. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's fine.
It's an honor.
Please don't apologize. It is. Okay, so let's get into it. Also, do you refer, is it Galinda or is it Glinda when you talk about her?
It's interesting. When I'm talking about younger Galinda, I usually say Galinda, and then when I'm talking about older Glinda, I say Glinda. But I say both, because they're both, her. But she's Galinda, I think.
Yeah.
But both slip out.
Okay, good to know. So when Glinda already exists and is already kind of so beloved out in the world, where do you begin in putting your own stamp on it? When you watch the film back, where do you think, oh yeah, that was me?
Well, when you love something so much, I was a fan of Wicked for 20 years. I saw the original Broadway cast when I was 10 years old, and I've always loved the songs. I've known the words. I've, devoured this music, and it's been a safe space for me since I was 10. It's finding the difference between being a fan of something and then learning who the character actually is. It's a lot of reading between the lines, and, yes, she's funny, but the only way comedy lands is if it's truthful, and what's beneath the surface, and what are her insecurities? Why does she need that external validation so much? Why is popularity so important to her? And kind of reading in between the lines, I think, and forgetting what taking it in and getting to know this woman and then releasing it so that you can just be truthful in the moment and respond authentically just because you know her. Then you're able to really find your own version of it by kind of doing deeper digging, you know what I mean? And then you can improv and play, and certain little pieces will just fall out of the sky and find their way into the film. A lot of them I didn't expect to be there.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot they happened.
You have clearly gone on such a journey with this film, and it's still continuing. But kind of thinking back to your audition and what you were expecting from this experience, how does it match up?
Oh my goodness. How does it match up? I mean, filming every single day was just so surreal. It was so beautiful, and we were so present in the work. There's no way to kind of expect what the experience was like. It was so special. We used to joke that every day is a big day on set, because we would finish Popular, and then the next day would be kind of like the opening scene to Defying Gravity or something. Be like, oh shit, that's tomorrow. Okay, here we go. But that really was the case. Every day was a big day, and is. So it was very surreal. Yeah.
I feel like you must have to have so much trust in your director to kind of believe in a film like this and know that the end point is going to be as successful as it has been. So can you talk about collaborating with John and what that relationship means to you?
Yes, John Chu is the most extraordinary director, of course, but also just human being, just the most empathetic and truly thoughtful person. He treats every single person like they're number one on the call sheet. Every single person, there's hundreds of essays and hundreds of dancers and hundreds of people who work on this behind the scenes, but it all starts with him, and it all comes from him. When we see Wicked be celebrated the way that it is, and, so much of Wicked was celebrated today, Paul Tazwell and everyone, Nathan Crowley, and Francis. It's so beautiful to see this happen, but it all starts with him, and I love him so much. He's endlessly curious. He's warm. He is brilliant. He's so particular and so free at the same time. Like, he will come in with a storyboard, second by second by second, perfect, meticulously planned outline of what the scene should be. Mm-hmm. You know, it's storyboarded, it's there, and we'll get that version, of course, but as soon as he's there in the room, he kind of throws it away and becomes curious and is like, okay, this take, just do whatever Glinda would do, you know? And he calls it catching butterflies. And yeah, I love him so much. He's an extraordinary person, yeah.
I know you've spoken about how he sort of encouraged you to make changes, especially with Popular, and you said you were quite sort of nervous about doing that. So can you remember what those changes were and how you relaxed into that over time?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of our hardest missions with this was finding the balance between honoring this source material that has been so beloved for 21 years and also breathing our own life into it and finding new truths. And I think, you know, with Popular in particular, that ending with all of the modulations and all of the key changes, I was really scared to do that at first because it wasn't the original Popular. And it was when we got to set and we saw that long, beautiful shiz hallway where we do that choreography down and back. It was 2 days before we filmed, and Alice and John saw the hallway and they said, holy shit, we have to do something in this hallway. And we had two versions of Popular. We had the classic ending, and we had the ending with all the modulations. And it wasn't until we saw that hallway that we decided to go with the longer version that you have now. Our choreographer, Chris Scott, who's so brilliant, he said, okay, what do you think about this? And he showed me the choreography that he just came up with spontaneously. And I learned it 2 days before we shot it, and I was still recovering from having COVID. The test was negative. It was negative. it was negative, I promise. And yeah, so I learned it, and we just threw it in, and that was when we made the decision. But you know, it's so scary and thrilling to take those risks because then again, that's how you find our version of this story.
You mentioned Alice there, Alice Brooks, the cinematographer, and you also have so many incredible heads of department, but also so many female heads of department as well. So can you talk about the impact that had on your performance and having somebody like Alice shooting you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, Alice Brooks she's such an extraordinary human being, you know. There's so much divine femininity woven throughout this film, which is about sisterhood, because John is so loyal, and he's known Alice since high school or college or whatever. And, you know, he picks these people, and just to be able to work with Alice on this has been so beautiful. You know, the Ozdes Ballroom scene is a 10-minute scene, and we shot it without cutting every single time. So from the moment she comes in at the top of the staircase to the moment the dance begins and we leave and we run up the stairs holding hands, all of that was fully done every single time. And she had to choreograph 700 different lighting cues so that...
What?
Yeah. It's insane. But so that we could preserve how it felt to perform it every single time. The reason why it feels that way to watch is because we didn't have to stop in the middle, and it felt that way every single time. And all of the essays that were there and dancers that were there and all of our crew was on the same emotional plane that whole day with us, and it was really special. But it's thanks to that vision that Alice Brooks had for the scene and that collaboration that made it possible.
Another scene which really stood out for me was the library scene, because it's normally such a place of reverence, right? A library, and it's so rectangular.
It's called a book place.
The book place.
Yeah. Sorry, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Oh, yes, the book place, yeah.
And,
sorry.
And rectangular as well. And this is not. It's so the antithesis of all of that. It's circles, and it's definitely not a place of quiet worship, that's for sure. So can you tell us about filming that and the sort of challenges of kind of hitting all of those beats in terms of the choreography, the dancing, having that huge kind of ensemble constantly moving?
Yeah, I mean, I have to just talk about Johnny Bailey in that scene. He's extraordinary. Isn't he just extraordinary? And and again, the books, when he's doing all of that choreography up on that level with the books, and he's opening the book with his feet and he's sliding it together, like, yes, we cut into the close-ups and we cut out, but he did it every single take the same way, and those are his feet. And no, and it's just really incredible. That's what happens when you have a choreographer like Christopher Scott and his associates Will Loftus and Comfort and Emilio, who care so deeply about every single detail. We got to rehearse that for 3 months before we got to do it. It changed many times, that choreography, so we knew many different versions of it. And then on top of that, Galinda is so physically strange and specific. I say with love. So we kind of had to find our own Galindified version of the choreography because, having that relationship with the choreographer is also such a privilege as well, to be able to say, like, that is really cool, but I don't think Galinda can do that. I don't think she has that in her. How can we make it a little more awkward or a little stiffer or weirder? She thinks she's a swan, but she's not. And, so that's part of the beauty of it. But when it comes to dancing through life and that week in the library, we filmed that over the course of like a week and a half, and it was just so joyful every single day. And I remember, sorry, one last thing is a long answer, I feel. There was a schedule change and something happened in the middle of it, and John Chu, this is just another testament to his greatness, he just water like off a duck's back. He just was like, great, we'll shoot something else, and just so kind. There was never a moment where I saw the pressure of this zillion-dollar film and the schedule and all of the things he had to get done break him. I never saw him take anything out on anyone or become stressed or short with anyone. He's just the kindest, most amazing man. And those were such happy weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful answer. Please don't apologise for going too long. We want to hear from you.
Thank you.
You just mentioned like the sort of the way that Galinda moves. So learning the way that she would move, what inspired that? Was it hard to let go as well after filming, having moved like that for such a long time?
Yeah, I think sometimes it still will come out weirdly. Like it's strange because you physically and vocally have to, disappear into another human being. So those things become habitual. Your muscles gain memories of things, and certain parts of you become stiff. My neck from toss is. I need to get that looked at. No, I'm not kidding. I have to at some point take time to do that because I'm not. It's not good.
God.
But sorry, what was the question?
Well, you answered the second half, but about the first half, about kind of where did you look for inspiration for how Galinda would move?
No, yeah, fuck. She's just. I think it just started happening when I got on my feet and I got in her shoes. I asked for her shoes. The first day that I got to London, that was one of the first things I asked. I was like, "Hi, is there a pair? Are her shoes around?" Because I knew that the height of the heel and the cinch of my corset would move my body differently and help me find her posture and what it is to be, Galinda, who thinks she's very smooth and poised. And finding her physicality was such a fun part. But Paul Tazwell, our incredible Oscar-nominated costume designer. He provided me with a rehearsal corset and a rehearsal pair of shoes, character shoes, to help me find it. And it just was getting on her feet and getting into the costume, that little cherry on top that really helped me find her beautiful stiffness.
And then, well, as we're speaking about costume, how involved were you able to get with all of like the sort of I feel like you're a details person, so the kind of the smaller details, the better. We'd love to hear about those.
Yes, I mean, one of our first days in London, we got to go to the War Room, and they had a presentation for Cynthia, and then they had a presentation for me because there was an Elfie one and there was a Glinda one, and they kind of laid out all of these gorgeous sketches, and and so many millions of pieces of blonde, like chunks of blonde hair. And
That's a bit creepy.
you know, it was kind of scary but delightful. No, with Paul Tazwell and with Francis and with Gabor, who did my hair in the movie and my hair today. He's here and he's Oscar nominated. And yeah, and just to be able to pick and to have a director like John who's really trusting of the actors, and he's like, well, she knows Glinda, so she'll know which dress she would wear to the Ozdas ballroom. And you know, then Paul is so inquisitive and collaborative and kind, and he would like ask many questions, and he's just so incredible. I'm still finding out little Easter eggs about things that I spent so much time near. My shirt at Shiz that is under a blazer had, I knew this one, but had little laser cut bubbles in it, which I just thought was so extraordinary. And it's that kind of thoughtfulness that is woven through every frame of this film that I think is palpable. It really is.
And I suppose costume design, but as well production design, is so vital, isn't it, for you being able to disappear into a role? So can you talk about the fact that it was practical effects so much of the time and how that helped you really kind of live in Galinda's world?
I mean, it really felt like a real world. The sets were the size of a theme park. It was really strange, but we started in the dorm room, which is one of the most intimate and smaller sets in the film. And we built such a comfortability and a family within the crew during that time that by the time we got outside and there were all of these physical, actual Munchkin huts where this is how real it was. One time I walked into one because I was like, you know, just going to, sometimes I would put my phone in there because I didn't want to be near my phone or whatever. I like walked in and a Munchkin was napping in the hut. And I was like, oh, shit. So that's how real the world was. But yeah, it was truly submersive and insane. And that is all Nathan Crowley, and he is a genius. And he said yesterday that Wicked was his favorite movie he's ever done. So I didn't take that lightly. I really was excited to hear that because I'm a fan of all of his work. So yeah.
In terms of like the little detail, what kind of really stood out that perhaps, you know, we might not see on a first or even second watch, but actually really helped sort of ground you each day in that role?
Well, for me, something that was really useful for me was just kind of all of the books were filled with like real pictures and messages, like Aussie history, Aussie lore.
Really?
And yeah, some of the things I'm thinking of are a little bit too much about movie 2, so I'm going to save them. But yeah, it's very useful when there's kind of like, as an actress, it's like there's propaganda everywhere of your best friend's face. And it's like emotional.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at. It's like it's submersive, it's real, it's strange, but something that in movie 1 that I just found out about this after 3 years, guys, is the O and the Z in the book place. There's so the spinning this tornado wheel with the books in it, whatever, is an O, and the ladders, when they're perfectly aligned, when things spin at the same time, make a Z.
Did any of you spot that?
Right?
Oh my goodness! Well, now you have to watch it again.
I mean, how could you? I didn't even know, and I was there. It's just so many little things,
We haven't talked about Cynthia yet. We have to talk about Cynthia, also BAFTA and Oscar nominated. Well, first of all, I mean, you both sang live, so I wanted to know, you know, how does that affect your performance? That, you know, if you were doing it afterwards or before in a studio, that wouldn't have that same impact.
Well, it's kind of imperative because the story demands it, you know, the emotional integrity of the context of what we're singing about. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's different, sometimes it's also having the ability to improv and like surprise Cynthia with new things, and it's kind of imperative because the material demands it. So, and also we're singers, we love to sing, and so that was a very easy, short conversation. They were like, how do you guys feel about singing live? We were like, Absolutely. But yeah, so it gives so much freedom, and it allows for the performances to be so much more truthful. And that was most important. And also, it was kind of a no-brainer because we share this with so many brilliant women who do it on Broadway and in the West End and on tour 8 times a week. So if we have to do it 30 takes in a row, yes, ma'am. You know?
Yes.
We've got to do it in solidarity with our sister witches.
And how did it work with Cynthia sort of duetting with another voice which is, you know, also incredibly powerful, but also very different from your own? And how did you sort of figure that out in rehearsals? How long did that take you? When was the moment where you felt like, oh my goodness, we just nailed that?
The first time we sang together.
Wow.
We just clicked. It just happened. You know, we didn't have a chemistry read together. We never screen tested together. We never auditioned together. And the first time we sang together was at John's house. We were at a little dinner party that he threw. It was very small. It was us and Mark and Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holtzman. And Stephen Schwartz happened to, you know, John just happened to have a perfectly placed piano in the corner. And Stephen Schwartz accompanied us and played For Good, and we sang For Good. And that was when we realized just how symbiotic it was. And I think it was because we were really, truly listening to each other. Because often people kind of maybe sometimes are singing and worried about their own voice and singing at the person or whatever it's about, you know, whatever it is. But we listen. So it's interesting. It's not just hearing each other, it's listening to each other. And our voices are very different separately, but when we sing together, it was a weird thing where our voices kind of meshed and held hands, like our vibratos were even kind of similar, and it was just the weirdest thing. And thank God for that. You know? Gosh, what a nightmare would that have been if we were like...
That would have been tough. You couldn't really have got around that.
No, yeah.
And how did having, I mean, all of the cast are so incredible. How did having all of them on set, being able to work with them every day, how did that help you to sort of elevate your own game as well?
I mean, that was what was so extraordinary about it. You know, we have such a brilliant, formidable cast, and we're all theater nerds, and we're all constantly surprising each other. That's what I loved so much about working with every single person, was that, you know, when we were shooting my coverage, my scene partner would give me a surprise performance, or when it was another person's coverage, I would try to like surprise them or evoke some sort of different, honest response. And it was just sort of playful and inspiring. And, you know, Jeff Goldblum and Michelle Yeoh, like I got to learn from the absolute greats, and it was just so special. And they are as kind as they are brilliant. And it was really, 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 really deeply special.
I don't know how you sort of get any work done with Jeff. Because
No, we don't. No, we can't. Why? Because he's just so beautiful and
so funny, and not
so
like just so quick.
And he's singing constantly. He's singing constantly. At all times he's singing. And then Cynthia will join him, and they're both singing the entire time, just every song in the Great American Songbook. I would no, seriously, I would join in sometimes. But I also am like very like, is John ready? I'm nervous. Like I want John. And I would have to sometimes be like, what was that, John? Action? And it was just delightful.
I can't sort of imagine like every day sort of going in, the emotional and also like the physical toll that kind of must have taken on you to kind of perform to the intensity and the depth that you do. So what was your sort of like routine to just sort of decompress at the end of the day to know that you could pick up again where you left off the next morning?
Well, there wasn't really an end of the day. It was sleeping, and then we were back in the chair the next morning, truly. But I think, I guess my thing that was super helpful is my thing I always talk about, meditation in my car rides over in the mornings. I would put my headphones on, and I would do a nice little medi, and I would sit in the hair and makeup chair, and we would have a beautiful day. It's hard to, you know, I don't know. Everyone was so fulfilling to be around. That kind of helped recharge the battery too. My glam team, the people who you spend the most time with, that you get to know most closely, you know, my dresser, Jess. She's my sister now, you know. She would call me Chickadee. And, you know, everyone, our PAs, everyone becomes a big family, and that really helps recharge the battery, is that time with everyone.
How many times did you do an English accent when you were on set?
I don't know. I lost count on day 789.
You must have been surrounded. It must have been so tempting.
Yeah, it was great. My dresser Jess, she would always go, yeah, and I whenever someone would say anything, that's how she says yeah, and it like kind of trickled into my life, and I started responding that way, and I was like, I have to nip that. That was strange, but no.
It's addictive.
Yeah.
You said that you kind of love how Glinda changes, and of course we're going to see so much more of how Glinda changes in film too. But can you talk about what kinds of changes that you really kind of loved following and loved kind of from the beginning to the end of the film, which were really kind of stood out?
Yeah, well, in part one, there's an arc of its own, really. We start, and she's she's, I'm going to be very loving with the words that I pick. Hold on. She is lovingly unaware. Mm-hmm. She is desperate for love and validation and being liked. She is a little bit ignorant. She is privileged. And she has a bubble of privilege that kind of blinds her a little bit from seeing certain other things, and it's not something that she even is conscious of until the moment, I think, in the Ozdas ballroom. Mm-hmm. And she gets the invitation from Elphaba to change there for the first time. You know, that's kind of the first layer of the bubble pop, I would say, of the bubble of privilege, where she kind of has this invitation to do better. And you know, it's not out of pity that she joins her on the dance floor. It's out of genuine empathy. Mm-hmm. It's how can I actually take this person's experience and share it with her and try to transmute this pain into anything else. You know, she's a person who's terrified of being disliked. And I think in that moment, her fear changes to hurting someone else. She becomes empathetic. She becomes more good, you know, and you know, it's beautiful to see that change happen there, and it doesn't end at the end of movie one, and yeah, there's much more beneath the surface that we get to chip away at slowly, or like more and more as we go.
And you know, you kind of cover so much ground in the film, and you tackle so much. Was there anything in particular that you maybe struggled with, or was a challenge to overcome, but then that you were really proud that you overcame it?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. Leaving set?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I don't know. I feel like, there's a lot of challenging moments, but I can't really. I don't know, because no, it's okay. You've stumped me. I just have so much support. That's the thing. So it's like nothing that was. Yeah, of course, it's very challenging work, and there are very hard parts, but everything felt so supported and so safe that it didn't really ever feel like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was hard to. Yeah, of course. Something like that.
Because I mean, you've seen the reaction here. You've seen the reaction all over the world. To end on, why do you think Wicked has resonated so much and so deeply with so many people around the world?
I think a few reasons. I think sisterhood. I think we need sisterhood and friendship, best friendship. I think it raises important questions about the truth, and once we know it, what do we do with it? That's something that we talk about a lot with John and Mark, and the whole purpose of Wicked is to kind of question our own selves and hold up the mirror and look at what we do with the truth. I think it inspires empathy. I think it allows for people to celebrate each other's differences and really look at each other with love and not assume that you know someone or whatever, you can judge someone like that. I think it's something that is so timely and yet so timeless, you know? Since The Wizard of Oz, to now, it's these are the themes and the messages that we need and that bring us closer together. And I also think there's so much humanness in it too. There's so much room for nuance and context and, you know, good and wicked, and how they both coexist in all of us, and how we all have little pieces of Glinda and Elphaba in all of us. We all know what it feels like to be at the center of that dance floor at the Ozdas Ballroom, and we all know what it feels like to be given that wand from Madame Morrible and be like, fuck, what did I do? You know, we all have those experiences in all of us, and so I think those are the reasons why we love it so. And it's funny.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Ariana, thank you so much for joining us on such a
Thank
celebratory
you.
day
Thank you
as
for
well.
having
You guys
me.
have been a wonderful audience. Please give it up for Ariana Grande. Thank you so much.